We begin our show with news out of the WNBA because the league just moments ago released the schedule for the upcoming seasons. And here is a couple of the notable matchups on deck this year. The Aces.
The WNBA just dropped a glossy, hype-filled 2026 schedule while the league quietly stands on legally unstable ground. The dates are set, the arenas are booked, but the season itself is hanging by a thread.
They'll have ring night in a 2025 finals rematch. Paige Bueckers, Caitlin Clark, they meet to open their 2026 seasons. And the expansion franchises, they make their debuts in Toronto.
The release of the 2026 WNBA schedule should have been a victory lap, a clean moment of excitement, optimism, and forward momentum for a league entering one of the most important eras in its history. Instead, it landed like a beautifully wrapped gift sitting on a fault line. Because while fans were circling dates and media outlets were pushing marquee matchups, one uncomfortable truth sat underneath every headline. The league does not currently have a collective bargaining agreement, and that changes everything.
Portland here, but these games, they're being announced without a confirmation that games will actually be played. There is, as of where we sit right now, no collective bargaining agreement as negotiations continue.
On the surface, the schedule looks electric. Championship rematches, generational star collisions, expansion teams stepping into the spotlight, and a season that feels designed to capitalize on the momentum women's basketball has been building for years. Ring night, Paige Bueckers versus Caitlin Clark to open the season. New franchises in Toronto and Portland finally joining the party. It reads like a league ready to explode into mainstream relevance. But behind the scenes, this schedule wasn't released from a position of strength. It was released from a position of urgency. Because when a league releases a full season calendar without labor peace secured, it is not just promoting games, it is applying pressure.
Between the League and Players Association. Now, I asked about the timing, and the league told me that they are releasing a schedule to, quote, be a key step to allow the essential planning for the year ahead.
The WNBA chose to move forward publicly while negotiations with the Players Association remain unresolved, and that decision alone sent shockwaves through agents, players, and insiders. This was not business as usual. Historically, schedules are dropped earlier, quietly, with confidence. This time, it came later, louder, and under far more scrutiny. The message was subtle but unmistakable. Planning is happening whether the agreement is finalized or not. That is where the tension begins. And if you want to join in the tension, don't forget to smash that subscribe button.
Is what they are calling it. So our reporter Alexa Philippou, our analyst Shanae Gumake join me now. Alexa, I want to start with you here because now that we have these dates, it feels like the natural next question is, are the negotiations?
At the heart of the standoff is revenue sharing, a topic that has haunted the WNBA for decades. Players are no longer willing to accept vague explanations, deferred promises, or accounting language that obscures the true financial picture. The league argues profitability and sustainability. Players argue growth, visibility, and the undeniable fact that their labor is driving unprecedented engagement, and both sides are dug in. Watch, the most uncomfortable part is not that negotiations are difficult, it's that communication appears stalled. The Players Association submitted a proposal weeks ago. The league has not formally responded. From the league's perspective, the proposal didn't meaningfully differ from prior versions and didn't justify restarting the process. From the players' perspective, silence feels like dismissal.
Yeah, Malika, well, what I've heard is that there has been not a ton of progress since that last deadline where both sides allowed the CBA to expire.
That silence matters because silence creates narratives, and narratives harden positions. Players across the league have privately expressed restlessness, not panic, but impatience. They believe a deal will happen, they want a season, but belief alone does not pay bills or guarantee protections. Optimism without movement starts to feel hollow when training timelines, free agency windows, and personal planning are all thrown into limbo. This is why the schedule release feels so loaded. On one hand, it gives fans something to cling to. It lets teams begin logistical planning. It signals confidence to sponsors and broadcast partners. But on the other hand, it creates a public expectation that may not align with the reality inside negotiation rooms.
Even if we're not quite there yet, the two sides still are disagreeing when it comes to revenue share and what that percentage of revenue share should look like I know we've talked before on the show about
if games are scheduled, people assume they will be played, and if they are not, the fallout becomes louder. The league knows this. The players know this. That's what makes the moment so tense. The irony is that the WNBA is arguably at its most powerful cultural moment ever. Attendance is rising, television numbers are climbing, star power is real, marketable, and global. Expansion franchises don't just want in, they fought to get in, and yet, the league finds itself replaying the same structural battles that have defined its past. The difference now is leverage. Players today understand their value in ways previous generations were never allowed to. They see packed arenas, they see sold-out jerseys, they see their names driving media cycles, and they are no longer willing to be told that growth is coming someday while their earning windows quietly close. This is not just about salaries, it's about respect, transparency, and control over the future.
Standstill, and also just the way that this negotiations are going. The league, to my knowledge, has not responded to the Players Association's most recent proposal. That was from a few weeks to nearly a month ago.
Revenue sharing is the headline issue, but it's not the only one. Players are paying attention to how revenue is defined, how costs are allocated, and how success is measured. Gross versus net revenue is not a technicality. It is the difference between meaningful participation and symbolic inclusion. And the league argues it must protect long-term viability. Players argue that viability has always been protected on their backs. And now, both sides are staring at each other, waiting for the other to blink. That's why analysts have described this moment as a staring contest, because neither side wants to appear weak. The league doesn't want to set a precedent it cannot sustain. The players don't want to accept a deal that locks them into outdated economics just as the sport takes off.
From the conversations we've had with players and just the sense around the league is that really when that deadline passed and the conversations around a free agency moratorium today.
In that context, releasing the schedule is not neutral, it's strategic. It shifts pressure outward. It invites fans into the conversation. It raises stakes without moving numbers. And it forces a question no one wants to answer publicly. What happens if this season does not start on time? The answer is uncomfortable. Missed games would damage momentum. Either delays would fracture goodwill. Casual fans newly arrived would drift. Broadcasters would adjust. Sponsors would hesitate. And the league's long-fought credibility would take a hit at the exact moment it needs stability. That reality is not lost on either side, which is why, despite the lack of visible progress, optimism still exists. Not because everything is resolved, but because the cost of failure is now too high to ignore. Players want to play. The league wants games on the floor. Expansion teams want debuts, not delays. Everyone involved understands what's at stake, but wanting something and securing it are not the same. What makes this moment especially volatile is the contrast between presentation and reality. On social media, the schedule looks confident, polished, celebratory. In private conversations, the tone is cautious, almost measured, unresolved.
A deal to get done and having the season proceed. Whether or not we're close to that or still a few weeks out, that remains to be seen.
Okay, so a sense of restlessness is what you're saying. But Alexa, I am curious, why then?
That disconnect is dangerous because fans do not negotiate CBAs. They react to outcomes. And if optimism turns into disappointment, trust erodes quickly. This is why some insiders view the schedule release not as confidence, but as a deadline disguised as hype. By publishing dates, the league has effectively created a ticking clock. Every day without progress now feels louder. Every week without a response becomes more noticeable. And every public appearance by league officials or player leaders is analyzed for subtext. The pressure is mounting. At the same time, players are aware that public leverage cuts both ways. A work stoppage would hurt the league, but it would also hurt players who depend on short careers and limited earning windows. That reality tempers rhetoric, but it does not erase frustration.
Well, if you think about it, typically, historically, the league has released its schedule in really early December. One year is at the end of November, the last few years. And so this is later given that timeline.
The league is deciding whether it wants to move forward as a modern sports organization or continue operating under a framework built for survival rather than growth. Players are deciding how much risk they are willing to absorb to force change. And fans are watching it unfold in real time. The inclusion of marquee matchups only amplifies the stakes. When you promise Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers to open the season, you are selling more than than a game. You are selling a moment. Moments don't reschedule easily. Expansion franchises face even higher pressure. Toronto and Portland are not just adding teams, they are adding new markets, new audiences, and new expectations. A delayed or disrupted season would ripple far beyond existing fan bases. That reality gives the players leverage, but it also raises responsibility. But no one wants to be blamed for stopping momentum, but no one wants to be exploited either. That tension defines this entire situation. The most telling detail may be how carefully everyone is choosing their words. There is optimism, but not certainty. Confidence, but not guarantees. Excitement, but not commitment.
First of all, I'm just a fan of the WNBA, so like I love to see this. I love to already start building storylines in my head. To me, this is a good sign that the WNBA, the league, wants a season and feels like it can potentially be accomplished if they step.
Because until a CBA is signed, everything remains theoretical. The schedule is a promise. The agreement is the proof. And right now, the league has offered the promise without delivering the proof. That doesn't mean collapse is imminent. It means resolution is urgent. The coming weeks will matter more than any press release. Silence will become louder. Patience will wear thinner. And the pressure created by that shiny schedule will only intensify. The WNBA is standing at a rare moment where its future could tilt dramatically in either direction, towards stability, growth, and shared success, or toward familiar cycles of conflict at the worst possible time. The schedule release didn't end the conversation, it escalated it. So was this schedule a confident step forward or a risky bluff under pressure? And if the deal doesn't come soon, who do you think breaks first? Let us know your views in the comments below.